Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Tim Cyclesman Wood, editor of Cycles News and Views on Cyclesman.com. Welcome back to the show, Tim.
Jim, thanks as always for having me.
Tim, how real are these supply chain problems?
Well, I think personally, it's my opinion, I think they are real, but I do think they are contrived. Absolutely, I think they are contrived. And, to that note, it's amazing. I know someone who does, kitchen cabinet stuff, and they can't, they can't get product. I know a guy that does performance heads, for automotive drag racing type thing. Talked to him yesterday. And, he can't get the foundries to get him, the raw castings. And then he can't get the valves, and he can't get the retainers, and he can't get spring. It's like every component is a fight to get. And then, my nephew, he didn't get his front end aligned on his truck, and he had some tire wear on the front, so he just needed 2 tires, so he's going to get 2 tires that match. He couldn't buy those tires. It's like with everything. I think I mentioned one time before, maybe a couple months ago now, I was looking for spark plugs for a generator, just spare spark plugs, NGK spark plugs. Can't get them. Don't have them at the small engine shop. It's everything. And, the cabling to make the generator connection. We live in Hurricane Alley, and so, I made some changes with the hurricane, and you need the wiring, the heavy wiring. And, the supply house, it was pulling teeth and had to jump through hoops and get it from another source and that sort of thing. So the disruptions are very, very real, but I do think that they are very much manufactured to try to, increase, to try to create inflation and, keep things going. But I think in the end, it is a burden on the economy, and that, a tax, if you will, on the economy that's going to ultimately crush it, because this is not sustainable. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing I did hear from friend of the show, Jordan Bateman, Vice President of Marketing for the Independent Contractors and Business Association in BC, is that commercial real estate is booming when it comes to warehouses, because now they've learned this just-in-time supply chain really isn't the best way to do business, because the slightest thing, like a stuck ship in the Suez Canal, can disrupt world trade. The entire planet suffers. So now they're trying to buy warehouse space, and if it's in places like Vancouver and LA, the most expensive real estate apart from New York in North America, commercial real estate prices are going up tremendously. So they've learned their lessons here. China isn't the end-all and be-all when it comes to supply, and relying on 5-year-old children to make your products maybe isn't the best idea after all.
I agree with that. And on the supply chain, one other interesting point, and think about this. I mentioned something as simple as spark plugs and tires, and not to digress back on that conversation, but I have to add this point. I had a coil pack I have a Chevrolet truck, and a coil pack went bad, so I had to order a coil pack. And I go online, I'm on the site, and I'm looking at parts, and so I just started digging and looking, just out of curiosity with supply chain issues in mind. And I found out that the engine, now this is General Motors, Chevrolet, and I found out that the engine is not available in my truck. Not that I need it, but I just saw that it was unavailable. And so I called the dealership and asked them about that, and they said, yeah, it's not available. You can't buy it. It's just, they don't know. Some will be released when they're released, and when they're released, perhaps you can get one and perhaps you can't. So it's very real, but I do think, again, that it's all part of some sort of a manufactured plan to create these disruptions.
Now, of course, with so many things being short, they're telling us you have to buy your Christmas gifts now because they may not be in the store when you show up a couple of days before Christmas. Again, is this something the retailers are planting in our minds so that we're willing to pay full price and not enjoy Black Friday sales?
I suspect that is marketing there. I'm not buying into that. Christmas gifts are one thing, and hard parts and cabinetry and appliances and stuff like that people need to conduct business. I heard a guy at the gym talking about, he's some sort of a contractor, overheard the conversation, and he was talking about the same thing, not being able to get, product in his business for doing what he does. I think he was maybe some kind of a home construction or maybe commercial real estate, but some sort of construction, and he was complaining about the same thing. I think it's kind of two different things. As far as, typical gifts at a typical Christmas gifts, I suspect that's probably more of a marketing ploy.
Yes, Jordan Bateman also told me contractors can't get paint. Apparently there's a shortage of some minor but very key ingredient in paint that they can't get. So you get a house that's half built, but you can't paint it.
Like I said, it's pulling teeth with anything you do like that. If it's automotive or, it's any kind of construction, I'm definitely seeing that. That's real.
Interest rates, do you think they're about to take a hike, whether the Fed or the Bank of Canada or the Bank of England say go ahead and do it?
I don't see it on the horizon in the U.S. I really don't. I do not see it. I have a model that I follow, and we've talked about that before. I haven't checked it in a while, but there's typically a spread between the real short-term rates, the natural rates in the market, and the actions that the Fed take. And I know that they wanted a floor under the rates. That's why we saw the reverse repo operations that have been successful so far, by the way. At holding rates above zero, because they were trying to go below, and in lots of countries we've actually seen short-term rates and even some of the medium-term rates go below zero. But we were facing that back in May, and that's when these operations ramped up. And so on the one hand, while they want rates above zero, I don't think they want them higher. And I haven't looked at my model to determine, but I don't think maybe I need to do that for the next interview, but I don't think a rate hike is anywhere on the horizon realistically at this point in the U.S. No.
We'll have more with Tim Cyclesman Wood right after this.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Tim Cyclesman Wood. Tim, crude is unseasonably high. Usually you don't see crude prices either staying the same or rising this time of year. What's behind that, and will it continue?
Crude oil tried to peak. The entire energy sector was trying, just like equities. It had a toehold on a turn back in, July, August, and even into September. And then we had this push up into late September and October, but now it's trying to turn again. I've actually got a short-term sell signal on crude as of yesterday. And so I think we're maybe back to a point where we're trying to turn. Ultimately, I think crude is pushing into a major top, just like everything else. But we've had one more push up here. And I think, again, when I look at some of the underlying, energy-related indexes and so forth, we talked about natural gas. Natural gas is still in a topping process. Last I looked, it still had a short and an intermediate term sell signal on natural gas. So I think it's trying turn. The opportunity's there. We're at the crossroads again where there's a turn trying to take hold. Can it bite? Well, I don't know. It hadn't all the way materialized yet, but I think we're again at a juncture where we could try to see a turn here in energy.
Now, OPEC hasn't been pumping oil at a rate they said they would, so they still have room to reach their pumping cap. If you were covering sports, you'd call it a salary cap, I guess. But we also see mixed signals from the White House. The very first act that President Biden did was cancel the XL pipeline, and then a few months later, he's begging OPEC to increase oil production so that gasoline prices in the U.S. could fall. So you have an inconsistent policy here. Or maybe he just doesn't like Canada.
Well, and I think, the way I see that, like I said, I look at things differently, but the way I see that is they intentionally wanted to drive prices up, and canceling the pipeline was a way to do that, to try to, create some inflation, and which I think ultimately is going to kill the economy. I repeat that. But to try to create some inflation. But then on the other hand, you got to look like the good guy and beg for some, like you really have the best interest at heart, and beg OPEC to increase production. So I think that's just part of the political game.
Who pays the ultimate price here when they start playing politics with key commodities? I know, the average person, if you asked them, I would drive an electric car if it was practical, but it really isn't. There aren't any charging stations where I live. They don't sell them. If I do order an electric car, I'm told I have to wait 3 years for it. So, I've got goods and services to do, and I've got kids to haul off to school and groceries to buy that won't fit in some little mini subcompact car. So, do many of these policies really hurt the economy that you say you're trying to help?
I'm not buying the electric car thing at all, and I really don't know what the real driving force behind that is, other than that there is a policy shift. And if you look at, I noticed it probably a year ago, looking at GM's website. To point the finger a little bit, I drive a GM, so I can talk about them, but I think they took the government money, the bailout money, and now they're doing exactly what they're told. And I think they're a key player behind this electric vehicle move. I saw some stuff back around the first of the year. They were talking about, I forget, don't hold me to the numbers, but I want to say it was by 2025 perhaps, that they were wanting to have 30 models throughout the GM line available as electric models, 30 electric vehicles available by 2025. That seems like that's a hard goal to achieve. I don't know that it is achievable, but I saw something to that effect, that's what they were shooting for. I don't know if that's a realistic thing, or if that's just another marketing ploy to kind of put the thought in people's minds. Mm-hmm. But I'm not buying into the electric car thing. I think it's I'd like to think it's a fad. But the main question I can't get past is, where do people think the electricity is going to come from? For one, you have an extra hot summer in Texas or something, the power grid, they have to, start doing rolling blackouts because of the stress and strain on the power grid. But then on top of that, so everybody starts charging their cars in the evenings or during the day when they're at work. That's just more stress and strain on a power grid that's already taxed, according to what I'm seeing by the hard evidence of a extra hot summertime. And then on top of that, where's this energy going to come from? Where's the electricity going to come from? It's not just going to fall out of the sky. Solar sucks. We've proven that. That's kind of a joke. The windmill thing, we saw that freeze up in the winter, last year before last. That's kind of a joke. It's not reliable, is what I'm saying, these alternative energy sources. And so ultimately, you're going to be burning some fossil fuels to create the energy. So what's the point?
Yeah, Europe, the perfect example. Their windmills were becalmed. Natural gas prices in the Netherlands went from $7 or $9 per cubic meter to double-digit $37, something like that. So you really couldn't afford to use it. Yeah,
I just don't buy it. And I'll give you another example of that sort of thing. and I know this to be true from fooling with race car stuff, but, you know, with you know, you can burn, you know, like gasoline, basically a race gasoline, or, you know, some people burn alcohol. Well, the alcohol or methanol, you know, you burn, the rule of thumb is it takes twice as much methanol as gasoline. Yeah. So, okay, they put, and this is true, I've checked the mileage in my truck, and I've seen this. It's absolutely true. It's just mathematics, basically. But, you know, so what, 10, 12, 15 years ago, they started putting 10% ethanol in gasoline. Well, guess what? You get 10% worth gas mileage. So you haven't gained anything. If they take the ethanol out, you'd get 10% better gas mileage. But what that does is, I don't know, I guess it subsidizes the corn farmer, and it actually is reducing the miles per gallon, which, you know, the car manufacturers continue to be squeezed to get the miles per gallon up, but then they're doing something detrimental that is costing them miles per gallon. So it's insanity.
What do you see happening with the U.S. dollar?
You know, I've been bullish on the dollar. I'm still bullish on the dollar long term. You know, I think we've had we talked about this, the 4-year cycle low, and so I think overall that the weakness that we see in the dollar is counter trend. So far, that's proven correct. You know, I'm pulling up a chart as we speak. We may have an intermediate degree top in place as we speak, but any weakness into you know, that low should be counter trend, and long term at this point, I'm bullish on the dollar. Now, if something should change and we get you know, it's possible along the way as we correct into the intermediate degree low, if we see signs of a higher degree top, then what that would tell me is that the 4-year cycle has perhaps topped, and then that would turn very, very bearish. But until I see evidence of that 4-year cycle top, I think that we have a major bottom in place in the dollar, and you know, it looks really good long term.
Tim, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you.
My guest has been Tim Cyclesman Wood, editor of Cycles News and Views on cyclesman.com. If you have any questions for Tim or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. Our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HouseStreet. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.